Just carry it on, we gotta have time to pop the popcorn.
Okay.
Well, you're an old man, I'm not that old yet.
That's a nice picture on there.
Well, I've got a son that's 45, 46, somewhere in there. So,
The horses.
by the time I catch up with you, he'll be 50. Okay.
It's budget time again, can you believe it?
Still? Still?
Yeah, that's something. You have to revise the budget every time you turn around.
Yeah, he's,
Mickey Mouse says it is, oh, we got 4 minutes, 6 minutes.
we got 6 minutes.
Oh, what's Donald Duck saying?
Donald Duck says, there you go.
We can do that.
All right.
Kids can't do it, but we can still do it.
Yeah.
No.
That was Linda. I've got a note here that we're gonna be broadcasting live tonight.
Now, according to Joe, he's only gonna
Yeah.
give a 10-minute overview for you. And anybody else after Joe, you've got 3 times on your timer, and it's over.
And
They're
okay,
done.
okay, cool.
Friends at school, they're gonna meet with him on Friday, you might end up teaching there. At that college where I took you at Christmas, yeah. Yeah, they were interested in his resume. Yeah, you have to have a graduate degree to teach there, so. Yeah, and they're very, very limited in what they have and what they offer.
You're my last.
You need to fill out this, if you would, the front page. I don't care about the back, but do sign it.
Okay.
And then, if you just sign that. Okay.
They're no relation. That's Dan Mean, and this is Ron Mean, spelled differently.
Although we still don't have a problem.
Neat old cars. Yeah. Ron does, yeah. There's a lot of old cars.
Did you take your car?
I didn't take my car, but he had his,
I know.
but I've had mine out twice this week.
Okay.
I missed that clock.
I got an appointment with Chino to put the leaves last time, Friday morning.
You got a straight 6 in that, do you not?
Is that a 4 or a 5?
You got a straight 6 in that?
Is that a
The flat at 8? Cool.
That's 4.
They didn't make 6s, Ford didn't make a 6 back in the day when I was like 48.
Huh,
They were all, they had 2 sizes V8, 60
Yeah.
horsepower,
uh-huh.
and 45 horsepower.
And 85 horse. Wow. Things have changed, haven't they?
Flatheads were wonderful.
Yeah, they were cool old
All you have to do
engines.
is look at my engine cover, you see how much things have changed.
Yeah.
You can identify everything underneath my hood.
And there's plenty of room.
Let me room under my Prius.
You tell me when Mickey says it's time, okay?
I could start anytime.
Oh, we still got them trickling in.
No, it's
Two.
2 according to mine. Did yours say 2?
Well, I don't know, Verizon is mine.
Sync with
Right.
international.
Yeah. Yeah, my daughter got upset because her car and her clock changed time. And she-
Automatically, yeah.
Automatically, and she says, am I that late? I said, no, I said, you have, it changed because you.
It's
the mountain
automatic,
changed."
yeah,
Yeah, but they don't realize, you gotta put in Arizona time, which doesn't change.
yeah. Yeah, because they, well, you had to put Phoenix in, that's what keeps it from doing it.
Oh,
Instead
mine
of
just says
mountain.
Arizona.
Why these
Oh, yeah.
figures aren't through
They just change it out of mountain.
2013 rather than from 2000.
Yeah, hers did.
Hey, mine. Almost.
How we doing?
That would be, because that,
Oh,
because the fiscal year isn't, 2013 isn't over yet, I guess. Maybe.
Oh, life in the fast lane.
Okay, I went to their county bar association meeting last week. It was interesting. I haven't gone again, you should go sometime.
That's gotta be it, they just aren't available at this
I have to check and see if I can get continuing ed credits for it. There's something about being out of state that might allow it, so. I might not have, this is a reporting year for me. But
No.
they, at lunchtime, they.
How fast can you run?
And then they give you
Yeah,
a
we're
You're
on
under a
ready, but
minute.
Yeah, go ahead and grab it.
$20 you go lunch.
As soon as you sit back down and
But
fire
I
up.
think California says you can do it out of state if you do that.
too late, 6 o'clock.
Public
It's
to
6 o'clock.
I know,
You're only
but,
up to
but
2012.
he's
Is that
going,
because-
he's going.
Who did him, he's gone. He waited and waited and waited till it was time to go.
What's that?
He waited and waited till it was
Yeah.
time to go.
Is there
Thank you, Drake. No, he doesn't run.
It probably be on,
Hey, I printed it and I opened it up.
I thought I read that it said if you're out of state, then you can just use them, so that's, I need to go back and look at it, because it's a reporting year for me.
I know.
Usually I just do
Well,
online.
I thought there was, but I just wanted to double check. And now you know, and
But here's the best part,
I saw that.
and that's the rest of it, I forgot to put it in. There's like,
You got the award. Not a problem. It was just a question.
Excuse me, Mike, we're fixing to fire up. Okay, I'm back. We're fixing to fire up.
Right.
He doesn't like us talking.
next minute, I'll sit down and I got 15 minutes.
All right,
No, not tonight.
go ahead and call this meeting to order. Ms. Hart, may we have the roll call?
Councilmember McKee?
Here.
Councilmember Turner?
Here.
Councilmember Wojak?
Here.
Councilmember Hatch?
Here,
Councilmember Best?
Here.
And Mayor Marley?
Here.
Thank you.
Presentation by staff and discussion regarding the fiscal year 2014-2015 proposed budget. Mr. Duffy, you're on.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Well, as you guys know, this is my favorite meeting of the whole year. It's a council meeting I really enjoy, but, before I get started tonight, we're going to be talking really about next fiscal year's budget. But, this is just one step in our whole grand plan here that we're looking for the future. And we're not looking for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. The town staff and council, what we're trying to do is put Chino Valley on the solid financial ground for the next generations, so that the town never faces what I faced when I walked in the door 2 years ago, where the town was heading off a cliff. Now, this approach is we're just not making it up. It's systematic. We are using, our professional experience of all of our staff, every one of the staff members in this room are collectively putting this together, with the guidance of council, of course, to come up with a way that we can help the financial recovery of Chino Valley. One of the things, and I passed out a memo that Robert wrote, a little executive summary on how the town has done the Chino, has proceeded in its financial plan for financial recovery. But the GFOA put out a nice little pamphlet, and I think I'll go ahead and purchase them for you. It's an elected officials' guide to fiscal first aid and financial recovery. And we've gone through this, and we are actually following the steps of this recovery as we go through this whole process. The first part is we had to recognize our problem. When I got here 2 years ago, you realized that the town was heading off a fiscal cliff, that we were going bankrupt. There's no doubt about it. So we identified the problem. We recognized it, identified it. And then we had to start, then the next step is bridging. And that's getting through the immediate crisis, taking the steps that we need to get through and give us a little bit of breathing room so that we can make more sustainable changes and build the foundation so we can build a solid financial future from that point forward. The next part is reform, and that's carrying out the short-term recovery plan that we came up with, and we did come up with a nice financial plan. We instituted the 1% sales tax. That was one of the major steps. And develop and implement some long-term strategies, the acquiring a Prescott water system, the water and sewer expansion on 89, the buying out the fan contract. All those are long-term strategies that are part of this financial recovery process. And then finally, it's just to transform. And that's the long-term financial planning that we're doing so that the town will be able to grow and recover and sustain that recovery into the future. So even though when I get going on the presentation, we're talking about 14, 15, that's just one step closer to that long-term recovery. And understand that staff is in the back of the room doing everything we can to promote that long-term effort. Now, we can't do it without council, and we can't do it without the backing of our community. But that's what our goal is. Our goal is not just making it through till next June 30. Our goal is to make it through to 2050 and mature as a town financially. We have to get there. And we can't do it overnight, and we can't do it alone. We got to do it as a team, but we've got to get there. We got to start making the decisions and heading down that course so that we can make that long-term financial recovery for the community. So I just wanted to put that out there and just say, you know what? We're following some really recognized guidelines that hundreds of communities throughout the country are following through this recovery. We all fell through this recession, and it hurt. We've all, been cut and bruised, but we're taking the right steps. And so far, the council has made the right decisions and got us on our way to financial recovery. I just would like, as the finance director, to promote that we need to keep going. We're not there yet, and we've got to work together to get these problems solved. We got some long-term problems, but we have some good workable solutions. So, let's make this a team effort. So, with that, tonight we have I did a short little presentation I'd like to introduce, and then we're going to have Cecilia and Ruth will come, and then Ron will finish up this evening, and talk about each of their different departments. All this work that we put together in the preliminary budget, and understand this is preliminary, we still have a lot to do, couldn't have been done without all the department heads and the employees in this room. Every one of them contributed a significant amount of time and has been working really hard. So it's not just the finance department's effort, and I said this many times before, it's really a collective effort, and these guys should be commended for all their hard work. The preliminary budget still has a few things to come. One, we have a budget message from the town manager and strategic goals. We wanted to see how these meetings and the input we got from the council before we started putting all those together. The community profile needs to be updated with the current data, the budget format tutorial, and we're adding a new section called Other Community Comparisons. We're about 90% done. We're doing some per capita, and we're going to add to the back of the budget just to see, number of police officers per capita by all the communities that we've looked at. I'm going to add a new schedule, general fund expenditures by categories, and do multi-year comparisons there so we can see total salaries by, total salaries in the general fund last year, total salaries in the general fund this year, total general supplies, and sort of break out the budget in a different format that you've never seen it before. So I thought it would be a good, useful information. Of course, the state budget forms, we won't complete that until we adopt the tentative budget, and there's a lot of little fine-tuning stuff. We've only had 2 people read it so far, and by the time we're all done, we'll probably have 10 or 15 people read it. So, new for this year, we've incorporated many of the changes and recommendations from GFOA. When they reviewed the budget and we received our reward last year, they gave us, look at this guy, look at this. This city does it this way. And they gave us some recommendations. Plus, they also said, let's move this from here to there, and we've done all those. We've added an interfund transfer summary that I think clearly shows how much money's been moving between funds. The general fund expenditures by category I mentioned, the employee benefits by fund, just an additional employee schedule. I've added the grade and step plan, which I didn't include last year, other community comparisons, and an area that we'll talk about a little bit before I sit down, the unfunded capital of the community. Some of the budget highlights, of course, we're presenting you a balanced budget this evening. It includes the 3rd phase of the comp and class study, And there's a section here on an equipment acquisition and replacement. And of course, we've added in the bond projects. Whether we vote to do the bond or not, we still need to make sure we have capacity within this budget. So let's talk about the funds real quick. And I won't go in too much detail with you, but the good news is the general fund actually did well. We projected revenues of about $7.3 million, and we actually received $7.3 million, just a little bit more. Transfers are going to be the same. Our expenditures, though, we budgeted $7.4 million in expenditures, and we only spent $6.8. So we are under budget by $608,000, which is remarkable. Now, why is that? Well, these departments were the main contributors. There's other departments that contributed a little bit here and there, and there's a few departments, including the finance department, that are over budget, which I'll be bringing to you before the end of June, so, for various reasons, but just a handful. We didn't have an election in the town clerk's office. The police had about $130,000 in savings and salaries, and that's actually, it's going to be a little bit more. They just haven't been able to be fully staffed. Recreation salaries were down. We never filled the part-time position. Parks maintenance, they were down just in maintenance expenses overall. Aquatics, we saved an additional $66,000. And then again, I also want to emphasize, this is because of the hard work of these guys out here doing this. And we have 215 left in contingencies.
Good.
Overall, where we plan to spend the money this year is we're proposing rolling over $411,000 into carryover. We're going to add $197, almost $200,000 into our fund balance. So that's where how we plan on spending that savings. Now, what's this do? We started the fiscal year, our available reserves were $1,562,000. We're required to have $1,850,000. So we started the year and we had not fully funded our general fund reserves. Now, with what we had left over from last fiscal year and this fiscal year, our reserves are now fully funded. And I think that is remarkable. That is great. That's a step in the right direction. So now we're overfunded by $689,000. And as I said in the prior slide, we're going to take $411,000 of that and apply it to this year's budget. And I honestly think that because of how conservative we budget our revenues and our expenditures, that this trend, it's happened the last 2 fiscal years, it's going to continue to grow. And this is the exact way a community should budget. This is perfect. We're doing a really good job. So I just did a little check. I mean, man, are we sure we're right here? So I took our ongoing revenues, and they're relatively conservatively budgeted, and I took our departmental expenses, not including contingencies, just what we're really spending day to day, year to year. And we're within 1% or $43,000 of being even. So the general fund, and as cushiony as that expenditure number is, we're even. We're not going to spend $7,447,000 next year. We're going to spend $7,200,000. So we are just right. The general fund is stable at this point in time. So let's go on to some of the other funds. They're not all that good. The HERF fund, we budgeted revenues of $765,000, using some carryover because we're drawing down that fund balance. We started, and we thought we'd end the year at $669,000. After all said and done, we're going to end the year at $716,000, and that's just, again, management or the department head running the budget as efficiently as possible. Next year, though, we're going to take the fund balance down to $228,000, and that's because we're only going to be able to put $175,000 in road materials, and we're putting $150 on the Perkinsville roundabout. The other $150 of it, we're going to take out of road impact fees. So after this fiscal year, the HERF fund is pretty much done. I mean, $250,000 is about where its reserve requirements are going to be. So unless we see revenues grow, our road material budget's going to be $75,000 to $50,000 a year. We're really going to drop it down.
Are we holding questions?
That's fine.
Yeah, I'll hold it to maybe get to the end because I haven't seen it come up yet. But I'm just wondering, with that much money, if we're paying back, I guess we can't pay it back till we improve the enterprise fund situation.
Right, yeah, the HERF is separately distinct. Their money
Right.
has to be completely on roads. But I got the enterprise funds coming in just a second. Okay. So, but the one thing I do want to emphasize, though, the HERF fund cannot sustain the amount of money that we've been putting on the roads the last 2 fiscal years. hopefully with the legislation, we do receive a little more revenue, but it's not going to make that much of a difference. Okay, the capital improvement fund, this is where we're putting all the bond projects. This year, we're putting the Yavapai Improvement Drainage District projects. We're putting some lease purchase of equipment acquisition in that fund. So it's really where we do all of our capital work. So it's really, that's why the budget number's gone so high. And we'll get to the detail at the end of this evening on exactly where that is. But the one thing I do want to emphasize is we're still continuing to transfer money over to the general fund, and we increased it to $100,000 this year. And that's okay, because per the resolution, we can use it to support police officers. And so I just took it to 100. We had actually, last year budgeted, it was going to go to 186,000. So I thought we'd just round it to a round figure. The water enterprise funds are continuing to take more and more. We're having increased maintenance in the water department. So you can see we're from 220 to 280. And debt service, of course, this year is one of those years that we take a little bit of a bump. We take another one, I believe, in 18, another 150,000, so that has to go up. So, but the fund balance in the capital improvement fund we planned on it being 477. It's going to be, we're projecting about 399, and next year 219. But after this point, it should start heading back up. So it should start after fiscal year 16, 17, 18. It should start heading back up. So we're sort of dipping down here and then heading back up, looks like. Now, the Water Enterprise Fund, this is one of the funds that we are really in trouble on, and I'm not the first one to tell you that, but the solution, of course, is to add new accounts. We've got the base infrastructure, we've got the fixed cost nailed, and so now it's just incrementally adding the new accounts. And the revenues, we projected revenues of 472. Our expenditures were 634, and so we're going to have a net loss this year of about 162,000. Well, that was what we budgeted. We're actually going to have about 151,000. Now, remember, we had the meter out at Old Home Manor that was faulty. So the revenue, what's made up that difference is buy-in fees into the water system. So we've added some new accounts with those, but that revenue actually cushioned the blow of that error. Next year, we're projecting system revenues of 433,000. All of our buy-in fee revenues, we just projected 30 homes next year. So we kept them down to a bare minimum on all the enterprise funds. But with the increased maintenance, we're going to need a little bit more out of the capital improvement fund, from 151,000 to 280. So this is where it's critically important that we start acquiring accounts. The rate study that Dan Jackson did had that we'd have accounts today. So we need to get moving, and that's really the only solution that we have to get the water fund at least profitable.
Would you entertain one more question?
Yes, sir.
You had said how many homes you expected to add on?
30.
30?
Yeah.
Okay. You realize that not all the homes we're building in the area are going to be on the water system?
Yeah. So probably the water, I probably did 20, but for like all the building impact, the building fees and things like that, I started with 30.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And Robert and I had a long discussion about that, because originally I had them at 0, but it's sort of not realistic. I mean, we can't count the money until it's in the bank, but we know we're going to have some building activity.
Okay.
So, the Sewer Enterprise Fund, now the Sewer Enterprise Fund was a lot healthier. And so what we're doing now is we're using up their fund balance, or their carryover. And so we budgeted to basically use carryover of $375,000. It's actually going to be $152,000 is our projection. And next year going to $249,000. And the main driver of that is just increased maintenance work that we're trying to do, and an additional, I believe, adding additional accounts, connecting people to sewer. So now the Sewer Enterprise Fund can maintain this for a couple more years, and actually as the rate increases without adding new water accounts come in, we will start decreasing the amount we've taken down. I think in 2 more years it'll be like $65,000. But then again, the Sewer Enterprise Fund, like the water fund, the more accounts, the better. So we need to keep heading in that direction. One of the major areas that we did look at was for our future capital requirements. I mean, the town of Chino Valley has been living off the depreciation of all of our equipment and our vehicles. And we can't keep kicking that can down the road. Now, when times were tight and we're in the recession, that's the right thing to do. But now we need to turn the corner and start replacing some equipment so that in 5 years from now or 8 years from now, we're not replacing everything all at once, that it doesn't come too bad. So let me have you turn to page 165 in your budget, and this is one of the new schedules that I did. We really focused it on the police vehicles, the machinery and equipment, and the roads this year. And we did a detailed analysis, Ricky did, of all the police vehicles and machinery and equipment. Well, the police vehicles, what we have is currently our book value, what we paid for all our vehicles is $2,164,000. We have 27 police cars, and the average miles is 80,000 on those cars. So we're getting to the point where we really need to start replacing cars. And what Rick did is he projected out, okay, if we replace these units next year, every year we replace units. And it turns out to be 108, 4 units for the next 2 and then 2 years. And so he projected out over 10 years, basically replacing the fleet at that time. So we're recommending that we do acquire 4 police cars this year, and we'll talk about how we're going to pay for them. We did the same thing with machinery and equipment. And what we did is we took every piece that we have $1,772,000 worth of equipment. There are 68 units, pieces of equipment out there. And everything from dump trucks to bobcats to all your basically rolling stock that we have. And we looked at, how old the stock was, when do you think we're going to replace it reasonably, knowing that we're going to maintain it and try to get every penny out of it that we can. And then when we replace it, what's a fair market value or what's a fair replacement value out in the future? So there's a lot of projections, but it's a good analysis to go through because it really shows that, and we're not trying to keep all our equipment brand new. We just know that, this thing is not going to last for 8 more years. In 8 more years, it's dead, and so we're replacing it. And there's quite a few things that we didn't replace. We're not planning on replacing the entire fleet over 10 years. We're just planning on replacing what we think is going to die in the next 10 years. So that's where we came up with those numbers. Now the roads, we could put hundreds of $1,000s on the roads and still not be where we want to be. So we just came up with, we started a study with 800,000 and then increase it by 3 or 4% a year and just see where we're going. So council needs to be aware that we have this unfunded capital, and we're going to come up with a recommendation for the vehicles and machinery equipment this year. But we also have this unfunded liability out there that continues to grow, particularly with the roads. And if we defer maintenance too long, it's going to be a big ticket item out there in the future. So just like we do with our computers, we buy 1 or 2 or 3 a year and we keep our technology up to date. We need to get in that mode with our police cars and with our equipment. We just need to start making that investment as we're turning the corner. So let's see if I have. So I'm recommending that, and I've included this in all the budget, the purchase and the proceeds are in the capital improvement fund, but you'll see a line item like in the HERF fund, lease purchase payments, the police department lease purchase payments. We make the payments for the money we borrow to acquire this equipment out of the individual departments. So we're recommending that we purchase a loader, a 6-wheel bobtail so that we can move our equipment around, 1 10-wheel dump truck, a backhoe, and 4 police cars next year. So you're going to see that in the budget, and each department will talk about their individual equipment needs. But we've added that this year. Typically what we do is we just go out to the banks, RFP it, get the best rate. We can purchase used equipment, but it needs to be sort of new used equipment. And it's like, you can buy a 2013 even though they have 2014s out, maybe with a few thousand hours, and we could finance it sort of as new. So, but each piece of equipment can be separately negotiated as far as interest rate with the banks. If it gets too old, they're going to ask for a higher interest rate. This is not saying we're just going to go out on July 1st and buy all this equipment. We're going to go out to bid, we're going to shop, we're going to look for the best deal. And honestly, if it comes back, we find a loader for $100,000 that's used in really good shape, maybe we should just pay cash for it instead of lease purchasing. Now, the one buffer we do have in the budget is that we assumed our lease purchase payments are going to start on July 1st, and the reality is they won't. So we have a nice little cushion sitting there, and that'll probably make up the $40,000 we need in the general fund to make us even. So with that, just quick little conclusion, the general government is stable. We are definitely covering our day-to-day operations. The enterprise funds, however, are not covering their cost of operations, and acquiring new accounts is essential to free up the funds we need for the capital improvement funds. And I guess our next steps after tonight and tomorrow will be May 15th. That's when we'll adopt the tentative budget. So any comments and recommendations we have between now and then, definitely let us know. Council will we'll have essentially, it'll be at a council meeting, but we'll have an open discussion on the tentative budget. May 27th, we'll make any changes or adjustments that you see fit and adopt the tentative budget, which we'll publish in the paper, put on the website. And then on June 24th, we'll adopt the final budget. So with that, I'd be happy to answer questions or.
All right. Any questions on this side?
Yeah, I've got some questions. When we retire one of these, is $80,000 or is 80,000 miles, is that the spot, 100,000 miles for a police car? What are we looking at, where we want to get rid of it?
Industry standards change. I mean, really where we're at with our fleet as we are now, with the Chargers and everything that we do have, they're spending more time at the dealers than they are on the road. So that's where I came up with the 80 with the fleet we have as of now.
Yeah, we have 8 of our police vehicles are over 100,000 miles right now. And a few of them are, I think they top out about 140, 150,000 when I looked at it. Yeah,
Okay.
so,
And you're saying you're having major issues with some of these cars now?
Constantly issues, constant issues.
Wow.
Yeah, and you know, like Joe was saying, if we can do it at 80, at least if we can start planning it at 80, maybe by the time we purchase the car, get it done, get it in service, we'll probably be pushing more like the 95 to 100,000 miles.
Okay.
Because it takes time to implement, get the car ordered, get all the equipment ordered, get everything back in service.
Just briefly for our folks at home who couldn't hear that, 80,000 miles appears to be roughly the industry standard. We're wanting to begin this process at 80,000 miles. Does that capture it?
Actually, Mayor, if I can, that's why I was going to stand up, because we need to get the microphones going so the people at home can
Yes,
hear
sir.
what we're doing. I don't want to speak for Ricky, that's for sure. He knows more about the stuff than we do, but on an average, the industry standard is actually about 100 to 120,000 miles before police vehicles are actually out of service by that time. If our officers are getting involved in a high-speed pursuit, and we're doing it in a 160,000-mile vehicle, and something goes wrong, we now assume different liabilities, much larger liabilities, because we have a vehicle that's way over what the mileage are. We already have vehicles that are 140,000. By the time we get these things rotated out, they're going to be at 150, 160,000. Mileage on a police vehicle doesn't mean a whole lot, because police vehicles will frequently just sit there and idle while they're working an accident, while they're working anything else. They're not putting miles on, they're putting hours on. If I turn a vehicle over to the police department out of our fleet that has 30,000 miles on it, it's a whole different thing if they give me one of their vehicles at 30,000 miles. At 30,000 miles, that thing is worn down much more than what a normal fleet vehicle will see. The ignition switches alone get cycled 10, 12 times a day, much, much, much larger than what a normal vehicle ever sees. So for our police vehicles, we really need to start a better program of getting them out of service well before that 140,000 mile price tag, which is where we're at right now. We have many vehicles that are 140,000. And the people at home couldn't hear Ricky, but we actually have several non-Ford and non-GM product that spend more time in the dealers than what they do out in the field. We're having some serious problems with some of our Chargers that are in the fleet right now. And those are some of the vehicles that are at the 120, 130,000 miles.
Did that answer your question, Councilman Turner?
You know, one more follow-up. How do we determine what we purchase? Is it totally just go out to bid? Do we look at what the Auto Trend magazines are telling us, or the industry, or is it just, you know, like the guy that built the airplane, the lowest bidder?
No, it's not the lowest bidder, especially when it comes to police vehicles. It is the lowest bidder off the state contract. We'll pull off the state contract for them. However, you just don't go out and get a normal vehicle off of the lot. When we buy a police vehicle, it's a police vehicle that is designed by the manufacturer for police activity. It has beefed up electrical systems. It has beefed up cooling systems in it. It has all kinds of different things that a normal passenger vehicle doesn't have. And on the flip side of it, it has a lot less amenities than passenger vehicles have. There's no carpet in any of our police vehicles. They're just bare bones. You got a radio, and that's about it that comes with them, AC and heat, and that's it. So this year, we're actually looking at bringing on what Ford stopped making the Crown Victoria, which was one of the industry standards for police vehicles. It was the Interceptor, and they stopped making it 2 years ago. Yeah, 2012 was when they stopped it. And we've held off on buying any of their new replacement. It's called the Interceptor, the police Interceptor. We've held off on buying any of those because we want to let them work the bugs out first. This will be the first year that we're actually going to be buying what we're proposing to do is buy the Ford Interceptor will be the product that we purchase. They actually have a crossover SUV that we will be purchasing. Our officers test drove each one, both the sedan and the SUV, and they found the sedan to be constraining. So we're going to go with SUVs this time, and it's a crossover style of SUV, but it is designed specifically by Ford to be a police Interceptor.
Only question I had was at how many thousand miles can they no longer catch Councilman Turner's Harley? That's important to us as a council.
That radio is hard to outrun. I don't care how old it is. That radio is just hard.
Councilman Best?
Looking at the future, though, when we go ahead and we retire a police vehicle or a piece of equipment, whatever it is there a resale to the public? I know in a lot of places there's auctions where they go ahead and somebody else, another place can buy that, and then we get a refund back? Is that figured into our cost? No.
No, I'm chuckling because our town manager is always on me about taking these retired police vehicles and putting them in the fleet. We have fleet administrative cars that Liz can attest to that she despises driving them. And those are just administrative cars. When we take a cop car out at 140,000 miles on it, it is ready for just nothing but the recycle heap. We do go through an auction process to get rid of these things, but they're really not useful in much of anything. As a matter of fact, one of the vehicles we're going to be doing this year, Public Works has a Durango. And there's been a lot of use of the Durango, a need of the use of the Durango at an administrative level. Councilmember Hatch drives it regularly and so on. One of the things we're going to be doing with this equipment is we're going to replace that Durango with one of the police SUVs. We're going to drive it for 2 to 3 years, and then we're going to turn that one over to the police department. As I said, when we turn over a vehicle with 20, 30,000 miles on it from administrative use, they're happy. To them, it's a brand spanking new vehicle. When they give us a 30,000-mile vehicle, that thing is beat to not good condition. Yes, it's extremely well used. So in answer to your question is, yes, we will sell them, but we'll be lucky if we get $3,000 to $5,000 out of each unit when we sell them.
Well, it was just my thinking that we would go ahead and get some return
We do.
out of what's...
We actually have a website that we auction all of our vehicles, equipment, everything else off through.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions on this side of the council? All right, thank you. Yes, sir.
I just had one more quick comment. And Ron touched on this, bringing some police cars in through the administration first gives us a chance to run the cars a little bit, but not run them in the same kind of a situation that a police officer might trying to chase somebody down. It gives us a little experience with the car to see if the car's going to present any problems up front. And then the capital improvement program that shows a small number of purchases on a regular basis also keeps the town from investing in a large number of police cars that may not be a great model to buy. So it gives us, again, a chance to sample year over year and find what we like and what we experience as a good machine, and then we can make investments. So it gives us a chance.
Okay, knock the bugs out of it. All right, thank you. Any other questions on this? All right.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Cecilia, we'll let her do her
Okay.
portion.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As we know, employees and their benefits are one of our biggest costs, so I know we have a couple new council members on board here, so I wanted to go through some of the benefits that we offer employees so that everybody's aware of what we offer. And then we'll go through the divisions. I have a couple division managers here who are going to present their own budgets, and then I'll do the rest because they could not be here tonight. So first off, I just wanted to talk about some of the benefits that we offer. We offer health insurance, dental insurance, and vision insurance for our employees. We offer 100% coverage for employees, and we cover dependent care coverage at 25%. For our health insurance, we offer 3 different types of health insurance. As most of you know, we're in a trust with Yavapai County, Yavapai College, and the City of Prescott. So all the benefits are, we have a shared group that we administer them through. So some of the accomplishments that we accomplished this year were the hiring of a new third-party administrator, the ability to offer vision insurance again, and then we're going to be offering a high-deductible health insurance plan for our employees this upcoming year. So overall, we contribute about $7,400 a year towards insurance benefits per employee per year. Some of the additional benefits we offer are flexible spending, life insurance, and then contributions to ASRS and PSRS retirements. Our insurance also includes an employee assistance plan, which offers access to mental health and substance abuse treatment. And besides these, we also offer vacation and sick leave. So, does anybody have any questions on those benefits?
The flexible spending, could you enlighten us on that?
Yeah, it's established, I don't want to say by the IRS, but they have a bunch of rules that we have to follow, but it's administered through a third party. Employees can put money into a flexible spending plan that they're only allowed, it's pre-tax, they're only allowed to spend it on certain IRS-regulated things. There's a cap on how much you can put into it a year. So that part's all the employee money.
Okay.
The town does not contribute to that.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Through the good stewardship of all the people in the combined trust, we've been able to hold health insurance costs down considerably over the last 3 years. As you can see there, over the last 3 fiscal years, we've increased our insurance health premiums by less than 5%. They even struggled this year anywhere between a 0% increase and a 3% because we have such healthy reserves in our trust. So that we have about 2,600 bodies in the whole trust that are covered through this insurance thing. Also, the last 2 years, we were able to have a benefit holiday in the month of December. So employees who paid additional funds for family coverage didn't have to pay for the family coverage in the month of December, and the town portion that we pay, we did not have to pay. That stayed in the general fund for the month of December, and that was mainly due to, again, good stewardship. We have very high reserves in our trust fund. The town does participate in the public safety retirement for our public safety employees and the Arizona State retirement for employees. You're required to work over 20 hours a week, 20 weeks a year, in order to participate in the ASRS program. And the rates that we contribute are listed here as well. You have any questions on that?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, then I wanted to talk a little bit, as you know, we went through a performance management plan this year and that we developed, and this is just a copy of the score sheet. I was kind of giving you an idea of what we use with our supervisors in the training, and it had 4 components. The goal of this phase of our performance management plan was to incorporate merit alongside with longevity and consider where an employee fell in the range relative to their step. But we also wanted to look at merit. So the employees had not had a merit or cost of living increase in 6 years, and although they had gotten back to a 40-hour work week this last fiscal year. We'll use some similar type of plan for performance management for next year, but it will probably be leaning more towards merit and less towards longevity. So out of that, on the score sheet, well, first off, I want to say we had 100% participation in the plan. It was a good performance management plan that we had this year and good participation by the supervisors. There was a possibility of a score between 0 and 10. It's unlikely that you would have scored under a 4 because you pretty much just had to show up and meet the minimum requirements and you would get a 4. As you can see it looking at the distribution of scores, we had only 8 to 10 employees, or the score of 8 to 10, we only had 6 employees. So those were, I guess you'd consider both having been, having some longevity in their position as well as being very good at what they did. We had budgeted $100,000 for the merit program, which encompassed both the merit increases and benefits. Overall, we had an average increase of 1.8%. That's included in the budget this year for the merit increases. We have an FTE count of 89 employees last year, and that same number is maintained for this upcoming year. One thing we are looking at hiring are 2 part-time interns, probably in the IT department and perhaps in planning. And the last thing I want to talk about from the administration standpoint is our holiday schedule. We generally work 4-day work weeks in almost all departments. And library and senior center work 5 days a week, but on the week of Thanksgiving, they're closed the day after Thanksgiving. This is what is in our manual, but we're going to change it to a personal day. I just wanted to tell you this is how, there's no additional holiday hours. It's just going to be distributed a little differently.
Okay.
You have any questions on that?
None? Okay, thank you.
Okay. Cindy Thomas from the Senior Center, her son has a baseball game, so I'm going to let her do her budget first,
Okay.
and then we'll work through the rest of the general services areas.
All right, thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
In your budget book, starting on page 112, is the Senior Center budget. But before we start going over numbers, I just want to go over some of our achievements from this past year. Our meal increase numbers, our numbers have increased in our meal category by 23.5% this past year, almost 30% in the past 2 years. A lot of that is contributed to our 5-day work week again. And also, I believe that it also shows that the economy is definitely picking back up. By the end of this fiscal year, I believe that we will have numbers close to 19,000 meals that we will have served. That is in-house meals and home-delivered meals. And it's split about 50-50, so about 9,000 meals for each category. For the first time in 3 years, we have a full advisory board. We have 7 members. They are all active and enthusiastic and go-getters, so we're really excited about that for this coming year. Also, we've had some great partnerships with outside agencies. Yavapai Regional Medical Center is coming in once a month and giving talks. They're sending in cardiologists. Next month, we'll be having a breast surgeon come in and talk about breast health. All different talks for our senior population. We have really great participation with that. Nurses Network comes in on a weekly basis to do blood pressure checks for anybody in the community, not just seniors, so remember that. Also, Hospice Family Cares and West Yavapai Guidance Clinic. We started a weekly support group this time last year, and it was geared specifically to caregivers and kind of turned around into more of a grief support group. It started with 2 individuals. We're now up to 15 people once a week that come together to talk about loss in their life, and they've kind of become this little family that now stays for lunch and has just really grown with each other. Yesterday, for the first time in several years, we held our Senior Healthy Living Fair. This will be an annual event. We had 17 vendors with 41 participants. It was from 3 to 6 yesterday afternoon. We had guest speakers, again, from the hospital, from West Yavapai Guidance Clinic, from different hospices, every different type of vendor you can imagine. We had some local vendors. It was a really great time, and we have many other partnerships that we have going on for this next year. Some things that we hope to accomplish this next year is to continue to look for and secure outside funding for our new flooring in our senior center. Our floor was last replaced in 2000 at a cost of, I don't necessarily know that number because I can't find it anywhere, but it is going on 15 years, and that's definitely past industry standard for a commercial building. through some resources. One resource that we're looking at is, last month, we submitted a grant to the Yavapai Community Foundation. We're hoping to secure funding through them to help this process along, and then we'll continue to look at fundraising. And on fundraising, that is one thing that we want to accomplish this next year, is to amp up our fundraising process. And with our advisory board, they are gung-ho to make that happen. Our very first fundraising event will be in July, and that is a car cruise, a classic car cruise at Memory Park. Our liaison with the advisory board and the car cruise is anticipating 60 vehicles to be there, and it'll be an all-day and evening event. So be looking for more information for that. And then our last thing that we really hope to accomplish, there will be more, but this is the last real important one, is we want to continue to welcome new volunteers so that we are able to enhance all aspects of our senior community, especially there at the senior center. As far as our budget goes, if you turn to page 114 in your book, our budget actually is not increasing, at least in the operating expenses, not increasing drastically. There's a few numbers that have changed here and there, but overall, the budget that we had adopted this last year, we're actually under what we have asked for this next fiscal year. May I answer any questions for you?
Any questions on this side? No. Any from this side? No? All right, thank you.
Thank
Cindy.
you.
Okay, go to your ball game.
Thanks.
Okay, the prosecutor's budget is on page 98. I don't know if you'd like to refer to the page that they're on. In the prosecutor's office, as you know, their function is to prosecute all misdemeanor offenses in violation of the ARS statutes, primarily criminal motor vehicle, and the Chino, and enforce the Chino Valley Town Code. A big part of Michelle's, we have one FTE over there, and then we have a person on contract. A big portion of our paralegal's job over there is the victim advocacy role, which is required by the state. As most of you know, we went under contract last year with the City of Prescott for prosecutorial services. It's been a little over a year now that we've been under contract with them. It's a little bumpy at first, but it seems like it's settled down now, and everybody's happy with the employee that is now servicing our contract with the prosecutor. By September 1st of this year, it's a 3-year contract, at least, up for subject to renewal. But as of September of this year, they'll let us know if the rates will increase for the next year, but it's right now still going to be set at the $50,000 a year. The prosecutor's here 2 days a week. Our goal is to have him do a little bit more training along the lines with both our code enforcement and with our police officers on presentations in the courtroom. Otherwise, we're going to do a little bit of work on enhancing the technology in the courtroom, but it's, I mean, we're talking laptop and just being able to do some presentations, so nothing really high-tech. So as you can see, their budget numbers really increased very little. So do you have any questions on the prosecutor's budget?
Any on this side? This side? No? Thank you.
Okay, on page 101 is the human resources budget. We only have one full-time human resources analyst. However, it is anticipated with our customer service representatives at the front window, we'll have one of those women have some cushion in her hours next year to start assisting human resources a little bit more. It's so many details that go into that and record keeping, and it gets a little overwhelming for her. And that's part of why Tiffany's not here right now. She's doing orientation at the pool for the new lifeguards. So it's just lots and lots of paperwork and follow-up. So I think one of the things we're going to concentrate on next year is a lot more training, probably looking more for our safety committee to ramp up some of their training that they're doing. We're going to look at supervisory training, and then we're going to be incorporating the core values that the employees participated in their self-evaluations this year into a mission statement that we're also going to incorporate into our performance management system next year. So we'll spend a little bit of money on those types of things over the next year. We're also going to try and continue to fund some employee recognition activities, such as this year we actually had an annual party that we hadn't had for many years. We have a little lunch every time somebody's retiring. This year seemed like it was kind of a big year for retirements between the police department and others. They're not very much, a couple $100, but it's a nice way to honor employees who actually make it all the way through to retirement. So beyond that, her budget also has not really increased much. So do you have any questions on that?
Any questions? None? All right, thank
Okay.
you. Oh, wait a second, we have a question. Yes, ma'am.
You're showing utilities and water, is that,
I think they used to take the costs
Spread it
and
out?
spread it out, and Joe decided that wasn't
so you
very
just moved it
good
up
use of
into another,
time.
you just moved it up into the other category, is that what you did?
Yeah, actually, we're moving it over to fleet management because they were allocating the water bill for this, or facilities maintenance, I'm sorry. They were allocating the water usage. The finance department paid a little bit, the town manager, the human resources director, the town clerk for this building. And our water, and we're budgeting $100, but the amount that we were being charged was like under $50 a year. So we just combined it all into facilities management.
Okay.
I think the total net effect, and we did it in some of the other departments also, we increased facilities management water by just like $500.
Okay.
So it was just a little too detailed
One less
for the
line item.
allocation. It just
Okay.
wasn't worth it.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Hatch. Did you have a follow-up, or we good?
No, I'm fine, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, the last one I'm going to do is on page 108. It's a library. And Scott's also sorry he couldn't make it tonight. As most of you are aware, they've had the library expansion this year, and I hope you've all had an opportunity to go over and look at it. It looks wonderful. So a lot of his time over this last year has been devoted to getting that finished off. I shouldn't say finished off, getting it 80% completed. He's still got a lot of finishing touches to do over this next year. One of the bigger things he's going to be doing is tripling his internet capacity. So he'll have his hands full, and a couple other tweaks he's going to make to the building. I just wanted to say we did offer, or we have the conference room over there as well as the community room. Now, the community room was used a lot for where he was storing the shelving, so it really hasn't been into use yet for the community to use, but it's really close now. She has had children's programs over there, but we haven't really offered it to other user groups, but we're in the process of getting ready to do that. The conference room, however, has been open to the public, and it is booked. I had no idea we had that much of a need for conference space, and it's probably 90% of the time booked out during the day. So that was a really nice addition over there, and I hope we have the same success with the community room once we're done. So also, their budget hasn't changed much, so I'd say if anybody has any questions on anything that they're doing, I'll do the best I can on trying to answer, but he works pretty much with part-time staff. I think he's only got 2 full-time people over there besides himself, a children's librarian and cataloger. The rest are all part-time staff, so, and volunteers.
The board for reserving that room back there, the community room, I was impressed. It's pretty well full all the time.
Yeah, it's,
Ms. Hatch?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the first paragraph, those numbers look like they're decreasing, but they're actually going up because you have to look at the online materials on
right,
page
on
110.
their books. Yeah, I saw that too.
That's that's really changed things. I've used the both the
The
printed and
e-books
the yeah. It's called Overdrive, and you can just download it.
Mhm.
Use your library card to sign up, and you can download books and audio and things like that. And but those numbers are kind of misleading. You see there are almost none in 9, 10, and 10, 11, and then they just totally flipped around.
All right, thank you.
Okay, Spencer's going to talk about the MIS and GIS budget.
Mayor, Council, thank you for the opportunity to come and talk to you about the MIS and GIS budget. As you guys probably have, and this is actually page number 104 in your books, if you're looking for that. Chance to get over there. But if you've read over that, you'll notice that the MIS GIS budget overall had a decrease of about $3,300. There were some increases and decreases in the various funds that made that up. One of the major increases you may have noticed was in the support services. That increase was reflected by a professional services agreement that you guys approved in November of last year for 4D to assist the MIS department in some of its server migrations. And that was rolled into the 2014 and 15 fiscal year. And that's why you saw an increase, and that was mentioned on the latter part of the Management Information Systems budget there. MIS has reached, I think, a healthy replacement cycle for a lot of its PCs that we have in deployment, which is good news. I think in lieu of the fact that Microsoft, as you guys have probably heard, is retiring its older servers and operating systems. You've probably heard that Microsoft Windows XP is dying a thrilling death, and many people do not want to give it up because they love it so much. But it is going away. The support is ending for it, and so as well as the Server 2003 platform. So it's good that we are on a healthy replacement cycle. We are mopping up the final little tidbits of Windows XP that we have on our network, and they will probably be eliminated within the next month or so, and they'll be done. As well, we are mopping up the final traces of our Server 2003 environment. That is going away as well. Most of that is a lot due to the fact that 4D is in working with us. We are moving to more of a virtualized platform where our servers can be condensed down into less hardware. We can run multiple servers on one piece of server hardware, allowing us to utilize less energy, and utilize the hardware to a greater extent. It's a very, very nifty thing that Microsoft has done, allowing IT departments to collapse that down, getting better utilization of that hardware. So we hope to have most of that virtualization done to the end of this year into a little bit of the next fiscal year. So we're hoping to have all our server environments brought up to the latest edition of Microsoft's server platform, which should give us a lot more time. As well, we are bringing our email server, and that was part of that project as well, up to the latest edition of Microsoft's Exchange server, which you guys know through Outlook whenever you're accessing your Outlook. When we finally get to that point where the migration, we move the Exchange server, you guys will notice probably on the council, you'll notice a difference in your guys' web interface if you're accessing the town email. So these are needed and necessary improvements due to the fact that Microsoft is discontinuing support for those. We basically rode that horse till it's done. So I think we definitely got a good use out of that platform, and we used it to the nth. We will be working also to improve some of our remote access capabilities. That is becoming more and more of the mainstay for most organizations, People need to be working in the fields, they need to be working on tablets, they need to be working on a lot of other devices. So securing remote access capabilities is going to become more and more of an important thing for any IT department going into the future. We are also working to try to move more and more of our services to the web. We are talking about doing some overhauls to our website in the following fiscal years. We will probably be talking about that a little bit further. I won't be talking about that tonight, but we're also working to expand some of the services within the library. As you're aware, with the library expansion comes some of the needs to expand some of the audiovisual stuff that's going on in the library. That large room is going to be in need of some sort of PA system, some sort of projection equipment and things like that. So we should see that stuff coming out here pretty soon. I think we did recently expand the Wi-Fi into that new area, and there's also some needs from an additional security within the area over in that new expanded area. With that, I'll entertain any additional questions. If there's any projects that you guys are curious about.
All right. Do we have any questions on this side? Any questions?
Is there going to be, how much change is there going to be when we switch over as far as utilizing our laptops that we've got? Do I need to come in and get retrained?
You know, my hope is that, Lon, you will roll with the punches. I'm certain you will, actually. It didn't, I don't think it took much to train you the first time, and
Okay.
so I think you will probably roll with it pretty well.
All right.
Yes, Lynn?
I have to wait for him to recognize me, thanks. The Business Support Center that we have going, what kind of work are you doing over there, if anything? Is there anything special we should know about that?
In the Business Support Center, my hope is in that area to get some, I think, a little bit more equipment into that area. What we tend to supply in that area for business support is an area where they can come in and people can sit down with them and work on with a computer and talk to them about what the town has to offer. I know Robert knows a little bit more about the Business Support Center than I do. If you,
Right now, the equipment that's deployed there was kind of leftover equipment from sort of what Spencer had removed from our operations. We've been talking with the chamber about a combined effort to bring more benefits and more impact to local businesses through that center. And Yavapai College has been interested in helping us also bring that vision forward. So, you know, I would look for better equipment that's there and the ability to allow our business or people who want to start a business the opportunity to use the room to connect themselves with the resources that are out there within the county. And I've got to develop a plan with the chamber on where to take it after that.
Okay. You have
yeah,
a
as far as the
follow-up?
equipment's concerned, we will likely be getting some upgraded equipment in there. The demand in that area is not really a heavy demand on a PC. Mostly what they need is just access to the internet. So it's a very basic thing to offer on there. We may have to actually do some environmental changes to actually make that happen. Because you got to remember, these are people that are not part of the town staff that are coming into a town facility. So we have to be mindful of security and things like that. So we're going to have to make some adjustments in that arena. But I think that we will definitely be bringing some of that equipment forward as we replace some of the town equipment. We'll probably be relegating some of that to that purpose.
Thank you. You answered my question.
Cool, thank you, thank you.
Anything else?
No further questions? All right,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I believe the Development Services begins on page 89, if you wanted to take a look at what's going on. Having started here just before the change of the fiscal year, I'm kind of getting into the swing of where the money was spent, and before I got here, the kinds of projects that were being done, and some of the things that we've worked on since then. In terms of what we've done this year, it may not outwardly appear to be a lot, but we have undergone a sea change in that department. We have worked really hard to get some cross-training for the administrative staff. We've completely reconfigured the planning department. We've added an actual planning assistant who has specific training in planning and urban development. And, of course, I came on board, for better or worse. And we've been plugging away at getting things organized, moving forward, and getting the ship going in the direction it needs to be going so that the community benefits from the services we provide. We have been working on the UDO updates. We have a list and a schedule that I've been working on with Robert for getting some more of those complete, with the general plan ratification upcoming in November that you will be looking at prior to that. It's probably best to save some of those revisions until after the plan has been approved, but there's still certainly no shortage of things we can fix in the interim. So you're going to start seeing those things coming back to the Planning and Zoning Commission and Council in short order. We've been working on some grant funding, both the round 2 of the EDA and the planning, or not the planning and zoning, the housing rehabilitation program are both coming up in June. We're nearly complete with the housing rehab application, so we can get that shipped off, and then we'll be fine-tuning the EDA for a second run at that. If you want to take a look at the budget, you'll notice that in 2013-14, we had one full-time and one half-time employee. We are now up to 2 full-time actual planners in that department. So you've seen a jump in wage and salaries, and that's the leading factor for that. In terms of professional services, prior to my coming here, there was another planner, Dava Hoffman, that has been working for the town under contract. We have $35,000 as an estimate to the end of the year, and I'd be surprised if we hit that. We did include $10,000 for next year just in case, because we just never know. Travel, it really has not changed. The only thing that has increased for advertising is the fact that the more of these ordinance updates we do, the more we're required to advertise. So that you will see continue at the $5,000 rate, because I think we're pushing that already. In terms of utilities, Kenny's paying mine now. There is no mobile phone. The rest of it is pretty much the same. We did spend money on furniture because every time I opened my drawers, the fronts would fall off. And I can only glue them together with a glue stick so many times. In terms of next year, like I said, the biggest increase is in the salaries and fringe benefit section. But the rest of it is pretty much the same. Like I said, we're going to see a significant decrease in the professional services. I'd be happy to answer any question anyone has. Questions?
Any questions on this side? Questions on this side? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here to talk to you, it's be page 96 in your budget books. The building department, as you know, took over, code enforcement came back under the building department this year, I think in October. So the budget, they really didn't have a budget at the police department. They had some money set aside for like abatement. So we were able to get that transferred over. So we have a planned cleanup April 25th and 26th in the Chino Meadows area.
Okay.
That's going to be the one we're going to do this year, and we're going to try to do something in May if we can. So really the biggest increase you see at the bottom of the line items is we're trying to get a trailer outfitted with lawnmowers, weed eaters, just, stuff that we can take out into these neighborhoods and let people sign things out, to help clean up their own yards and hopefully get a volunteer group to help out with that.
Great.
Excuse me. And then the biggest line item, you see the 17,000, that will be for cleanups in different areas of the town. And this is, we haven't done one in so long, we don't know what it's really going to take. This is going to be, this one we're going to do in April is kind of a trial run to see what it's going to cost, but we have, we're thinking probably either 9 or 12 40-yard dumpsters in the Chino Meadows 2 area. That's really it. The other increase is just another body over there. You know, we have the code enforcement officer is doing code, and then backing up in the is doing building inspections as well.
Okay, thank you. Just briefly to let our audience know, this is we'll probably have to sink $1 or $2 into our sound system here. Yes, sir. All right. All right. No,
Radioactive.
It isn't you being radioactive, so.
Mayor, if I could.
Any questions?
Yes, sir.
I'm told by the IT folks that while we have interference in here, the viewers at home do not. So we're very hopeful that the viewers at home are able to hear what we're saying, as long as it's on the mic.
So the noise is all in our heads. All right, thank you.
Any questions?
Did we have any questions on either side? I just had one quick one. Would you like the council members, as we run into volunteer groups, to point them your direction as far as the abatement work?
Absolutely.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
That'd be great.
All right, thank you much. Oh, you had a question?
Yeah, I'm a little confused about what you said. I mean, you're showing, like when code enforcement wasn't in your department and there was no real budget, and yet you're showing back to 2012. I guess I'm having a hard time figuring out, you know, if this is a whole new department or a whole new addition that sort of doubles things. How did you come up with these numbers?
What you mentioned something in 2012. I don't understand.
This is 2012, 2013. You've got a whole line item down there, and so I'm trying to figure out if there was actually an additional cost when it moved departments, if we actually increased the budget somehow by moving code enforcement into the building department.
We did, and it's that bottom line number. You see the cleanup campaign. We've always had a budget for small tools and equipment. The reason, and that's a one-time thing, where it went up to 6,000. That's to secure a trailer, some lawnmowers, some weed eaters, different cleanup equipment, shovels and rakes and stuff like that. To have a mobile trailer that we can take out to these neighborhoods, people can sign out tools to help to clean up their own yards.
Yeah, I just. That isn't exactly, I mean, your overall budget increased for the cleanup, but I'm trying to figure out, you moved an additional person into the building department, and yet, take a look at the salaries in 2013-14, and what we have now, there's not that big of an increase. I guess I'm having a hard time understanding.
Okay, let Joe explain.
Yeah. Councilmember Hatch, we had 4 people budgeted in fiscal year 13-14, and during the reorganization of the Development Services Department, 1 position was eliminated, and then we brought the code enforcement officer in at a higher range, so that's why you see the difference in the salary amounts. So the net number of people exactly the same. We just had a different organization, different staffing levels this budget year versus last budget year. And then on the cleanup campaign, $10,000 of that came from the non-departmental budget that we've been budgeting for several years. So we've taken it out of there and just brought it over to this budget. So the net increase in our cleanup campaign from last budget year is $7,000.
Have we checked at any other organizations? Because I've been contacted by a few. For instance, United Way asked me what we needed in the town, and I'm not quite sure. I talked about several things we had going on, and I wasn't sure who to tell them to contact. I mean, they're interested in helping in the community, and I'm not quite sure who to link them up with.
Absolutely.
Maybe some of this
Have
could
them
have.
contact Development Services, code
Okay.
enforcement, or myself.
Okay. I know I
Excellent.
mentioned it to Robert, but it's not, they're interested in helping, they have some money available, and not just in this area overall, they were asking in the town, do I send them to each department, to development services, code enforcement, or?
Mayor, if I may.
Yes, sir.
Councilwoman Hatch, if you'll give me that contact information, I'll be happy to administer it to the
Yeah,
departments. that can
she's
handle it.
new, I think I mentioned to you, and I met with her, and she wanted to know what we needed, and
Sure.
We want to make use of all the volunteers we can.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you. Did you have a follow-up, Councilwoman Hatch?
No, I just want to make sure, she was very eager to find out, and I want to make sure that, she knows all of the departments and where she can help out if they're that interested in us.
Excellent. Thank you. All right.
I have one more
Oh,
question.
you had another question?
Yeah.
Dan, before you take off.
And I don't know if this question is for you, Dan, or not, but I'm not seeing, I'm kind of following up on Councilwoman Hatch's on the budget aspect of it. When we originally took and moved let's see, let me find it here. The actual code enforcement, when we moved that originally, what was that, 3 years ago? To the police department, 4 years ago, to the police department, I believe $51,000 in budget went with that.
That I don't know.
And my question is, did it come back when code enforcement came back to developmental
Yeah,
services?
they wanted that position.
That would be
Mayor,
a
if I
Joe
may.
question.
Yes, sir, Mr. Smith.
Councilman Turner, we'd be happy to get a detail of that for you. We need to do a little research, though.
Okay.
But let me speak with the chief and Joe, and we can answer your question at your next study session.
Okay,
Cool.
thank you.
Thank
I have
you.
one more question.
Yes, ma'am.
You don't need cell phones anymore?
Pardon me?
You don't need cell phones anymore?
We're not, no, we're using our personal phones.
Well, why are they using their personal phones?
Just, it's easier than carrying two.
Mayor, if I may.
Do we reimburse them, or, I mean, what's?
Currently, we don't have a policy for reimbursement. We are studying that. That's something that has come up through this budget process. We would endeavor to provide them with equipment rather than them have their
Yeah, that would
own.
make more sense.
But in the past, the town has not provided it, and it's one more area that we need to mature into.
You bet.
I think for security and,
And for liability
Yeah.
issues, because once a subpoena is issued for communications and data,
your phone is at risk.
yes, your personal information's out
You
there.
bet. You bet. All right. Thank you.
Mr. Rock.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I asked my guys if they wanted to come up here and present their own divisions, and they all enthusiastically said no. So, you get me. Public Works starts on page 148 of your budget book. I'm sorry, 115.
Thank you.
115, sorry. I had to put my glasses on.
115?
115. Yeah. And I'll leave it up to the council. Do you want me to go through division by division, or just hit the highlights?
What would be the council's pleasure?
Highlights
Any
sound
thoughts
good
on
to
this
me.
side? Highlights sound good to you? Highlights sound good to you? Highlights it is.
Highlights it is.
Well, it's going to start out that way. I'm not sure it's going to stay that way.
Yeah. I'm
Well-
sure by the next couple of budget meetings, we'll be more and more into details.
And, you know, we can go through line by line if you're up for it.
I prefer not to go
So-
through line by line.
No, sir.
Anyway, Public Works is responsible for engineering, facilities, fleet, parks maintenance, recreation, aquatics, public, roads, which is highway user revenue funds, and the enterprise funds, water and sewer. In short, nothing really significant changed in any of our budgets. We're pretty tight on everything. I do want to send out a special shout out to Chris. As you heard Joe say earlier, we have managed the parks and primarily the parks maintenance and the pool into a significant savings for the town. One thing that we have done under Parks Maintenance, it shows 3 personnel under Parks Maintenance. It's in fact, we have 2 full-time employees now in Parks Maintenance, and we have 2 seasonal employees. We took 1 full-time position. We really don't need 3 people in Parks Maintenance in December, January, February. So what we did was we took that 1 full-time position, split it into 2 full-time jobs that are 6 months long that we will, we're actually hiring them right now as we speak. As soon as our DPS clearances all happen, the background check all happens, we're ready to hire these 2 guys, and we'll be 4 strong through the heavy parts of the Parks Maintenance through the summertime, and then we're going to go to 2 only in the lighter months in the wintertime. Engineering hasn't changed much. Facilities, it changed a little bit, as you've heard. We're taking, Joe doesn't like taking $7 from 5 different funds, so we put the water in all of facilities, so Kenny's budget went up a little bit in that area. No new personnel requests. There are the equipment. I don't know if you have any questions on the equipment. Joe went through earlier what part of the capital is on the equipment that we're purchasing. It's primarily for, well, it's actually for HERF roads, which is the loader and the dump truck. It's a 10-yard dump truck. Although what we're finding is we're not finding too many 10-yard dump trucks out there anymore. Most of the haulers have gone to 16 and Super 18s, which can actually carry 21 yards. It's those large trucks that have those tags axles that come down hydraulically. Yeah. So we may, if we can find a good piece of equipment like that, we may not purchase a 10-yard. We may go to one of the larger vehicles that have the tag axles on them. Mm-hmm. It's just because of what's available out there on the market. Our loader is completely gone. It's down. It's, what, 1994? Is that when it was? It's 20 years old as we speak right now. They have found oil or metal shavings in the hydraulic systems throughout all of it. Mm-hmm. The machine's gone. We actually have been working with John Deere. They have an outstanding program that we're trying to get Robert and Joe to move a little bit quicker on. We're not sure right now we can actually buy a brand new one cheaper than what is shown in the budgets for both a backhoe for utilities and a loader. But John Deere is relying on certain discounts that they currently have in this year's state contract that will go away July 1st. Mm-hmm. So Robert and I and Joe are going to have a little bit more conversations on those 2 pieces of equipment to see if we can't get something started on those sooner rather than later, and take advantage of the current discounts that John Deere offers. Mm-hmm. That may not be they may not be there next year. Yeah. I don't mean to be jumping around too much, but really you've already seen it for roads. Roads is dropping. We have not been generating enough funds to maintain the roads that we have in the last many years. In fact, in probably the last 10 years, we have not been generating nearly enough money in order to maintain the high-quality chip seals on dirt streets that we have. We have a plan worked out that as the 89 committee starts moving forward on their things, we have a way how to get the 1% capital to assist funding roads, but that means getting utilities, water and sewer off of that fund. Mm-hmm. And we have a strategy that will start to lay itself out as the 89 committee starts doing their work and then coming back to presentations that they have in May to the council. The one thing I do want to go through a little bit is the capital improvement one. CIP is on page, I was going to go through the adjacent ways project. Is it 158, Joe? That's where, there we go. Under the capital improvement fund.
What page are we on here?
Actually, yeah, let me find the one I want. Actually, we're going to go to 161. That's where the individual projects are listed for the upcoming year. On 161, We're actually, in this year's budget, we will be bidding the box culvert at Center Street and the Santa Cruz Wash. If you'll remember, the extension of Center Street, but from 1 East over to the Peavine Trail is part of our settlement with litigants that we've had down in the 4 South area. And this box culvert will allow us to get Center Street over the Santa Cruz Wash. The design for that is complete. We're starting the compilation of getting all the bidding stuff together that our attorneys require. We should have that project out for bid by the end of April, first part of May, and we're hoping to start construction on it. We actually have money in this year's budget, so we're hoping to start construction on that as quickly as we can under this year, and then this project will provide the carry-forward funds to complete the project next year. That project is budgeted at $500,000. Yes?
Mr. Gritman, if you would, for our audience's benefit, you and I spoke on why it's so expensive to do box culverts over a little wash like that, what appears to be just a wide ditch, and you helped enlighten me on a little of that.
Well, and I should speak to the joys of the FEMA process. The Santa Cruz Wash is one of the 3 FEMA floodplain areas that we have in Chino Valley, Granite Creek being one, and the Little Chino up to the north being the 3rd. You can't just go into the Santa Cruz Wash and do work. You get 404 Army Corps of Engineer issues, you get all kinds of other things. So we have to go through what's called a letter of map revision, which we've been working on with Civil Tech for this entire last year. It has taken the better part of 9 months to finally get the letter of map revision issued. It's actually called a conditional letter of map revision, a CLOMAR. Once we complete construction, we'll submit as-built, and we'll actually have a letter of map revision issued for the Santa Cruz Wash in this area. It is FEMA controlled. We can't get in there and work without FEMA permission. The box culvert that we're proposing, I believe, is a 6-barrel box culvert. The one that we built up at 2 North is a 10-barrel box culvert, and the one at 1 North is about an 8-barrel box culvert. Obviously, the farther north we go, the more flow we have to contend with. The box culvert will convey the 100-year storm underneath it, so we won't have topping issues that we have historically had. Those of you who remember 2 North, back when we had the Swiftwater Rescue in '08, those issues won't happen on any of these new structures that we're constructing these days. And again, it's part of this coming winter. We will actually construct Center Street itself from Road 1 East back to the Peavine. That's our 2nd year's project. Of part of that 3 to 4 year project to get Center Street, Peavine Trail Road, and 4 South constructed. And as you know, 4 South is complete. I have it on the agenda for next Tuesday night to give you a complete, thorough, down to the gallons of fuel used on what we did on the project, and it came in well under budget.
Okay.
Did you have a question? You were leaning forward. No? Okay. Construction of Center Street between Road 1 East and Railroad is also on here. That's the Peavine Trail Road. Construction of Road 1 East between 3 South and Kalinich. Kalinich, as you know, is the new road that we will be constructing. That's approximately 1,000 feet north of where 5 South would be if it existed, but it doesn't. This is part of what we agreed with ADOT. We build these roads. ADOT builds the 89 widening plus the roundabout at Kalinich itself. And so this is that project. The timing on this project is going to be a function of the availability of the materials. We get right at just under 4,000 cubic yards of millings from the 89 project. ADOT has agreed to give us those. We have stockpile areas for those. So once the contractor delivers those to our stockpile area, we'll get started on this project. If it ends up not being available, it's an 18-month project that they're working on. If this is not, and if the materials are not available until well into next fiscal year, we may push this project back a year. So we'll just wait and see once we get what the materials available. The Chino Meadows Unit 5, Peavine Trail Drainage Project. This is a project, it's a little over $1 million, $1,200,000. It is to construct and resolve flooding issues along Little Doggy Draw between Porcupine Pass back to where the Bright Star tank is at. It follows an existing incised channel. It has 2 boxes, one underneath the Peavine Trail. That current box has been condemned, actually. We had an engineer come out and look at it, and it is undermined about 7 feet under the face of the box culvert. It's completely just cantilevered hanging out there. So this project will replace that box as well as install a new box and replace a series of pipes that we have under Porcupine Pass. Currently, Little Doggy Draw, when we see a large storm come through, primarily, most of the flooding happens up there during monsoon. So when we see that one monsoon storm that comes, we'll just sit over Chino Meadows Unit 5 and Chino Meadows Unit 2, Little Doggy will top, and this project will fix all of that. I should say, this project is Yavapai County flood control funded. However, the flood control district did not budget the full project. So they budgeted for us $400,000 in this year's monies, $500,000 in next year's monies. So we'll do it over a 2-year period. Under the first phase of the project, which will be the box culvert at Porcupine Pass, there's going to be a gas line replacement, a relocation in there. And as you all know, in the infinite wisdom that Chino Valley had in 1996, they signed a contract with our gas company that we get to pay for all the gas relocates. It is not a normal thing. We actually have a memorandum of understanding, and we have 2 things that are going to be coming to council that contingency funds are probably going to get involved with, whether we do it this year or next year. One of them involves the gas relocate at the Road 2 North Box Culvert that we did 2 years ago, and then the gas relocate at the Road 3 North Box Culvert, right there at Public Works. But those will be coming to the council here this fiscal year. But we are including that gas relocation at Porcupine Pass in the project. So the amount of channel improvements we do is a function of how much the gas is going to be, how much the box culvert is going to be, and then we'll limit the channel improvements that we do farther to the east to whatever the budget is that we have available. And then the last project is the Community Development Block Grant, CDBG dollars. We have approximately 264,000, is that what it is? $264,000. The base across most of the dirt roads up in Chino Meadows Unit 5 is already in place. We have 6 to 8 inches of AB that we placed there when we did the sewer project years and years ago. We'll come in and sweeten that base up, and then all we're going to do is come in and just lay asphalt, and this will be the real stuff, not just chip seal, over the AB surface. We're going to start at Cottonwood, and we're going to start at Center Street and move as far north as we possibly can. As you know, we get CDBG dollars once every 4 years. Staff's recommendation this year and for the upcoming 47 years is probably going to be just continue to keep paving in the Chino Meadows area until we get it all completely resurfaced. That area up there is all chip seal, and we get these funds every 4 years. Council did approve to start the first round of paving, but it's going to be a lot more than what the funds are that we have available. So we're just going to run it out as far as we can. We'll take it out all the way down to the last penny. So those are the capital projects. You have any questions?
Any from this side? Any from this side? Just and I'm not asking for a resolution in the immediate future. Do we have anything on the radar insofar as how we're going to resolve the Bright Star booster system? Have we had any? We don't need to fix it this week, but eventually we need to plug that hole.
Well, and if we are successful in acquiring the Prescott system, we're going to be back into, right now we only have 1 well on our system. If we lose the Bright Star well, we're not in a good way. So right now, today, we don't have, I should explain for the home audience, what we have up at the Bright Star booster station is not a gravity system. We have a series of booster pumps that push pressure into the water system. When Country West is online, or when well number 6 from the Prescott system is online, if we acquire that, we have 2 pumps that push against each other. And APS loves us when we do that. We run an electric bill up in that area in excess of $7,000 to $8,000 per month up in the Bright Star Booster Station. The solution is to put a gravity tank, which has already been sited. We know exactly where it's going to go, out in the hills off to the east. In fact, it's a little bit south of Center Street, off in those hills that you see off to the east. In answer to your question, Mayor, no, we're not proposing that right now. We have it in the back of our mind to eventually extend the pipeline and build the tanks that we need to. But given where we're at and the complexities of what this council and what the community is going to be presented with in this upcoming year, with just dealing with the bond issuance, the stuff that we're going to have as far as the 1% and how that's going to work into roads, and going through all of the machinations that the 89 committee is going to be doing, for this upcoming year, we would suggest just keep it as simple as possible for right now. We know the resolution to that.
Okay.
When funds become available, it will start showing up as a capital project for on future budgets. But for this next year and probably the next 2 years, we're just going to leave it alone as it is.
Excellent. I just wanted to know that we had a possible resolution to it. I knew we didn't have the money for
Yeah,
it.
we know like I said, the tank has even been sited. We even have a site plan on the tank that shows how much cut and fill we're going to be doing. We know exactly where this thing's going to go.
Cool.
We're
Thank
just
you.
waiting on the monies.
Thank
That pretty much is most of Public Works. Unless you have any questions or if you want to go through line by line, I'll be happy to.
No. Any other questions on this side? Any questions on this side?
Just a comment, I can't believe you let those guys off the hook.
Oh, trust me, they owe me, and they know it.
Excellent. Since there's no other questions from council, we'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
No, oh, wait a second.
No.
Oh,
You got one more line.
I moved too
Other
quickly.
budget items, right there.
Yes, sir.
Mayor, if I could, I have two questions for council. One is, I would pray for council's excuse in our next study session. I'd like to attend the Chamber's Citizens Academy, which is tomorrow night. They'll be focusing on the general plan and the town's strategic plans, as well as council's strategic plan that came out of your retreat. And I'd like to be able to be there to speak to that for that group. And towards those ends, if it's possible, I'd like to go through my departmental budget so that we can answer any questions that council might have on that budget while I'm here. That way I'm not leaving Joe to twist in the wind. Are you comfortable with me running through that budget tonight?
We're comfortable with Joe twisting in the wind. But, no, yes, sir. If it's okay with the council, let's go ahead and have him do it, and that way we won't have questions for him tomorrow evening.
It's fine with me.
Yes, sir. Fire away.
Thank you. That budget begins on page 70, and I will rely on Joe's input here. He helped craft this budget and probably knows the details better than I do. There are some FY14 accomplishments as well as FY15 new initiatives and goals. The FY15 new initiatives and goals on page 71 largely come from the materials that was submitted to me by council at our last meeting. There were some goals and objectives associated with the performance appraisal process that we'll entertain next Tuesday. So in anticipation of that, I went ahead and put those items in the budget, as well as a few other things I had floating around my desk. Page 72 details the expenditures for my office. My office does have 3.5 FTEs listed in it, and that does cover the administrative pool up front that we've created for support here within our offices. I'm very hopeful that through work experience and skill sets that I can begin to develop some additional support for my office. I'm a little swamped. So we're working towards that. You do see an increase there associated with that. We are increasing some hours of those personnel that are at that desk. You do see some professional services in there that are in excess of prior year's budgets. I learned a lesson this last year. We wanted to have a council retreat, and I didn't have money in my budget for it, and I didn't want to drive yours under. So we do have some funds in there for that. And you see a slight uptick in training and seminars. Over the last year, through the ICMA, I have been securing webinars that more than myself have been able to participate in. We've invited the staff and council to participate in those. There have been some occasions where the room didn't work and we had to put it off, but I found that bang for your buck, those are pretty good. For a couple $100, I can get training for a room full of people. So with that, if there's any questions, I'd love to entertain them and come up with answers for council.
Okay. Any questions on this side? No. Any questions on this side? No. Mr. Best, you seem most anxious to entertain the motion to adjourn.
We can make a motion to adjourn till tomorrow night.
Second.
And a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Meeting adjourned.